Have you ever looked at someone you know, maybe a friend, a coworker, or even yourself, and just wondered about the underlying math of their life?
Oh, absolutely. It's something everyone does, I think.
Right. Because you see two people. One is making, say, $40,000 a year.
Yeah.
The other is pulling in $70,000. And on paper, it seems incredibly obvious who's doing better.
Yeah, you'd assume the $70,000 earner.
Right, exactly. But then you look closer, and that person making $70,000 is somehow constantly broke, like living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
While the person making $40,000 seems, perfectly fine, unbothered, and totally financially secure.
Yeah, it's a really common situation.
So welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission for you today is simple, but it is going to hopefully completely rewire how you look at your cash flow.
Yeah, we're getting into the mechanics of it today.
We are going to build a step-by-step checklist to help you identify and eliminate those hidden liabilities that are just quietly destroying your monthly budget.
And that $70,000 earner who's constantly broke. That is a fascinating paradox, because when we see that income disparity, our first instinct is usually to blame external factors.
Oh, for sure. We think they must have massive medical debt.
Right, or they just have terrible luck, But the data we're looking at today reveals a much more uncomfortable reality.
Which is?
It rarely comes down to bad luck. It almost always comes down to 5 specific traps.
5 traps?
Yeah. These are purchases hiding in plain sight that quietly keep incredibly hardworking, intelligent people entirely broke.
And the craziest part of this whole mystery, the wealthy individuals who consistently avoid these traps, they don't have some secret, inaccessible knowledge about global economics.
No, not at all.
They're not necessarily smarter. They have simply learned to recognize the mechanics of these traps and, just say no to them. Okay, let's unpack this. How do we actually translate the mechanics of these 5 traps into a usable checklist? Like if someone listening is experiencing that slow financial bleed right now, how do they systematically stop it?
Well, to build this checklist, we need to completely overhaul how we evaluate capital allocation.
Okay, big words. Break that down for us.
Right. Sorry. Basically, we're breaking this down into 3 core actions. Action 1 is identifying depreciating assets and toxic debt versus actual investments.
Got it. Step 1.
Action 2 is running a really ruthless audit of your subscriptions and convenience traps.
Oh, the convenience traps.
Yeah. And action 3 is ranking your current assets by profitability to expose the liabilities that are, frankly, wearing a very convincing disguise.
Love that. Liabilities in disguise.
Yeah. When you implement this framework, you stop operating on consumer logic and you start operating on investor logic.
Yeah, so the natural starting point has to be the most massive, immediate bleed of wealth, right? If we're executing step 1 of our checklist, identifying depreciating assets, we have to talk about the new car trap.
Oh, the new car trap. It's brutal.
We all know the cultural script here. You get a promotion, you go to the shiny dealership lot, you find a car with 0 miles on the odometer.
It smells great.
It smells like absolute victory when you sit in it. But the underlying economics of that transaction are genuinely terrifying. The source points out that the moment those tires touch the actual street, literally seconds after you sign the financing papers, that vehicle loses roughly 20% of its value.
20%. Just gone. And what's fascinating here is the economic mechanism driving that instant depreciation.
Right, because the car isn't suddenly worse.
Exactly. You aren't losing 20% of the car's utility. The engine didn't degrade by 20% in 11 seconds.
So what did you lose?
What evaporated was the premium you paid for novelty. Think about it. Dealerships bake their massive overhead directly into the manufacturer's suggested retail price.
You mean like the showroom lights, the sales commissions?
The massive inflatable gorilla on the roof, all of it. The second you drive off the lot, you are no longer selling a new car with dealer backing.
You're just a private citizen selling a used car.
Yes. The market instantly corrects for that information asymmetry, and your net worth takes the hit.
So you were essentially funding the dealership's electric bill and calling it an asset.
That is the perfect way to phrase it. And wealthy individuals bypass this entirely.
Because they know it's not an investment.
Right. They understand a vehicle is a depreciating utility, so they look for a slightly dusty 3-year-old model from a private seller.
Which makes so much sense.
By doing that, they let the first owner absorb the massive hit of that market correction.
Which means they're capturing the exact same utility. They get the exact same safety ratings, the same engine reliability, the same air air conditioning.
Yep.
They completely skip the new car tax and keep tens of thousands of dollars in their own ecosystem over a decade.
Exactly. It's just math.
But that concept of, funding someone else's overhead brings us right into the second part of step one, the flex trap.
High interest consumer debt.
Yes. Specifically those buy now, pay later schemes. The designer clothes, put on credit, the flagship phone, upgraded every 12 months on an installment plan.
That's so common now. And in the moment of purchase, the psychology is incredibly potent.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You secured the designer item, you post the photo, and the algorithmic validation just rolls in.
It feels like success. But the mathematics of the financing are actively dragging you backward. Take an $80 shirt, put on a credit card at, say, a 24% annual percentage rate.
Which is pretty standard for a lot of retail cards.
Right. People tend to look at the minimum payment and think, oh, I can afford $15 a month.
Because they don't look at the amortization.
Exactly. They completely ignore how the interest compounds. Because of how credit card minimum payments are structured, a massive chunk of that $15 goes solely towards servicing the interest.
It barely touches the principal.
Barely. So by the time that $80 shirt is actually paid off, it didn't cost $80, it cost $140.
Whoa.
You've paid a $60 penalty just for the impatience of wanting it today instead of next month.
I was thinking about how to visualize the mechanics of this. It's like you're deciding to rent a temporary status symbol from a financial institution.
Renting status, I like that.
And in exchange for that temporary status, the bank clamps an invisible iron ball and chain around your ankle.
Yeah.
And because of that 24% compound interest, every single time you flex for the camera, that iron ball gets 5% heavier.
That's a great analogy. And the profound irony is that the audience you're performing for,
right,
like the people liking the photo on social media, they have no idea about the ball and chain.
They don't know you're still financing a cotton t-shirt 3 months after you wore it.
Exactly. The flex is entirely hollow. You purchased a liability that actively drains your future compounding power just to manage the appearance of wealth in the present.
Man, that's brutal. So to clear step one of our checklist, you must eliminate the new car tax and sever the high-interest flex debt. But here is the logical progression. When someone realizes they're dragging around that massive iron ball of consumer debt, panic sets in.
Yes, the desperation kicks in.
And that desperation leads directly to a completely different kind of trap. We've covered the things that obviously drain wealth. Now we have to look at the things that pretend to build wealth, but are actually just like psychological extraction mechanisms.
That tax on hope. This is a profound vulnerability for anyone trying to escape the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. It manifests as lottery tickets, scratch-offs, or, the desperate late-night search for a random cryptocurrency coin that is supposedly going to 100x by Tuesday.
We've all seen those Twitter threads.
Oh, yeah. And the mathematical expectation of these vehicles is brutally clear. The odds of hitting a major lottery jackpot are roughly 1 in 292 million.
1 in 292 million.
Statistically, you have a better chance of being crushed by a vending machine.
Okay, I'm going to push back on this a little bit.
Sure.
Because while the math is objectively terrible, human psychology is complicated, right? When someone buys a $2 lottery ticket, they aren't usually acting under the delusion of a guaranteed return.
True.
It often functions as like a harmless investment in a weekend dream. You get to spend a Friday night imagining the mansion, the freedom, the ability to finally quit a stressful job. Is it genuinely that toxic to purchase a tiny amount of hope?
Yeah. Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the toxicity becomes really apparent.
Okay, how so?
Dreaming big isn't the problem. The problem is that the system, whether it's the state lottery or a pump and dump crypto scheme, is mathematically engineered to systematically extract capital from the demographics who can least afford to lose it.
It's extractive.
Highly extractive. It is a negative expected value game. You are voluntarily feeding your capital into a machine designed to slowly grind your net worth down to zero over time.
Because it shifts your focus away from actual mechanistic wealth building.
Exactly that. Contrast this with how capital is deployed by those who actually build lasting wealth. They do not chase the low probability jackpot.
Right.
They take that exact same capital and purchase a slice of broad human productivity, an index fund.
The index fund. It is the perfect counterpoint because it is incredibly boring.
So boring.
There is zero adrenaline rush when you buy a share of the S&P 500. But what you are actually buying is the combined labor, innovation, and profitability of the 500 largest companies in the economy.
Think of it like an index fund tree. You plant it, and it grows slowly through corporate earnings and dividends.
Yeah.
It compounds over seasons and years, entirely independent of whether you're watching it or not. Poor capital allocation is buying a statistically impossible dream. Wealthy capital allocation is buying time and compounding productivity.
All right, that firmly closes out step 1 of our checklist.
Right.
We've stopped the upfront bleeding by avoiding rapid depreciation, eliminated toxic flex debt, and rejected the tax on hope.
It's a solid foundation.
That brings us to step 2 of the framework, running a ruthless audit of the quiet, invisible leaks in your budget.
Oh, this is where the financial damage gets incredibly stealthy.
Stealthy is the right word.
Right. Because when you sign a car loan for $30,000, your brain registers that as a massive financial event.
You feel the pain.
Exactly. But step 2 is all about the microtransactions, the purchases that completely bypass your brain's threat detection system.
We're talking about the convenience economy here.
Yes.
The $7 daily latte ordered through a delivery app, the delivery fees themselves, the gym membership you stopped using in February but haven't canceled.
The 5 redundant streaming services.
Oh man, the streaming services.
These function like background applications running on your smartphone. Individually, one app doesn't seem to use much battery.
Right.
But when you have 15 of them constantly refreshing in the background, your phone dies by noon.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
These microtransactions drain your financial CPU. The raw math is stark. A $7 daily convenience equals $2,555 a year.
Okay, but the real cost isn't just the $2,500. That is where traditional skip the latte financial advice always falls short for me.
Yeah, people hate that advice.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The true cost is the opportunity cost. It's the compound annual growth rate you forfeit.
Bingo.
If you took that $2,500 a year and routed it in that boring index fund tree we just talked about, assuming historical market returns, you aren't just missing out on coffee money.
Not at all.
Over a decade or two, you're missing out on tens of thousands of dollars of compounded wealth. You are sacrificing your future freedom for a mild, fleeting convenience today.
And that opportunity cost is precisely why the wealthy approach this differently. They don't navigate this by living a miserable life of absolute deprivation.
Right, they still buy coffee.
They don't ban coffee. They navigate it through relentless awareness.
They audit the background apps.
They actively monitor their capital outflow. If a subscription or a daily purchase delivers genuine, disproportionate value to their life.
Like it actually makes them happier or more productive.
Exactly. If it increases their productivity or brings them immense joy, they keep it. But they ruthlessly terminate the subscriptions that are just quietly leaching capital without providing equivalent value.
So it's about intentionality.
It is the conscious act of auditing, not the deprivation, that recaptures that massive opportunity cost.
Which perfectly sets up the final phase of our mission. We've stopped the upfront bleeding. We've plugged the invisible background drain. Now we arrive at step 3 of our checklist, ranking your assets by profitability.
This is the big one.
This is where we examine the actual hardware of your financial life to expose the liabilities operating under a disguise.
And this raises an important question regarding financial literacy. How does society train us to define an asset?
Well, the cultural narrative dictates that if something is large, expensive, and physical, it must be an asset.
Right. I own a thing, therefore it's an asset. But the data draws a very stark line based entirely on cash flow. A staggering amount of poor capital allocation is just buying massive liabilities and falsely labeling them as assets.
We are talking about the oversized primary residence.
Yes.
The boat that sits on a trailer in the driveway for 350 days a year.
Oh, the boat. The problem with these purchases is the psychological anchoring. People convince themselves, well, real estate always goes up, so they over-leverage themselves into a massive house.
A mega mansion they don't need.
Right. But they fail to calculate the true cost of carry. An oversized house demands massive property taxes, relentless maintenance, exorbitant insurance, and higher interest payments.
And the boat requires docking fees, winterization, registration.
Constant upkeep.
They're essentially capital sinkholes.
They are. The definition of a liability is something that actively requires a constant infusion of your cash just to exist. You are paying them. The true asset, the wealthy alternative, reverses that flow. True assets put capital into your pocket, regardless of whether you get out of bed that day.
We're talking rental units,
Yeah.
dividend-paying equities, small businesses.
Notice the aesthetic difference there.
Yeah, they're not flashy.
True assets are rarely designed to impress anyone. Nobody is filming an MTV Cribs-style tour of their diversified dividend portfolio.
Welcome to my crib. Look at this Vanguard spreadsheet.
Exactly. But while the over-leveraged boat is acting as a capital sinkhole, that boring portfolio is highly capital efficient. It's generating yield. It is compounding. It is working in the background, purchasing your future time.
I always think of it like this. The oversized house or the boat is like a giant bloated pet that constantly eats your paycheck every single month.
Right.
Whereas a dividend stock is like a tiny, unglamorous box that just quietly spits gold coins into your piggy bank day after day.
I love that. A gold spitting box.
It is the ultimate shift from optimizing for optics to optimizing for mechanics. So to recap the entire framework we've built today for you.
Let's hear it.
Step 1, identify depreciating assets and cut the flex debt to stop the massive immediate bleed.
Yep.
Step 2, audit the invisible subscription leaks to reclaim your opportunity cost.
The background apps.
And step 3, rank your holdings by cash flow to ensure your assets are actually paying you rather than you paying them.
As we finalize this checklist, it is so crucial to recognize the underlying thread connecting all of this data.
What's the thread?
Well, we've talked extensively about math, opportunity costs, and compound interest today, but fundamentally, none of these 5 traps are actually about money.
Oh, they're entirely about psychology.
Every single one of them. Think about it. The choice to absorb 20% depreciation on a new car, that is driven by ego and the desire for novelty.
Yeah.
Financing a designer shirt at 24% interest, that is a deep-seated need for social approval.
Trying to impress strangers on the internet.
Exactly. Feeding capital into the lottery. That is surrendering to desperation and trading logic for hope. Allowing subscriptions to bleed you dry, that is just an addiction to convenience.
It's easier not to cancel.
Right. And over-leveraging into a massive boat or house. That is the desire to look successful to your peers, rather than doing the quiet, unglamorous work required to actually become successful.
So what does this all mean?
Well,
For you, the listener, the ultimate takeaway is that financial optimization is really just a byproduct of psychological optimization.
hit the nail on the head.
The people who break out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle, they haven't discovered a magic formula. They just stopped making capital decisions based on how their life looks and started making capital decisions based on how their life compounds.
Every financial transaction is a behavioral mirror, which leaves you with one final thought to consider as you review your own monthly budget after this.
I'm ready.
If every single dollar you deploy is essentially a vote for the psychological state you want to live in 5 years from now, are your current habits voting for a future driven by ego, debt, and a desperate need for external approval? Or are you actively voting for a future defined by quiet, unshakable freedom?